Chapter 14, To Take a Life. We walked through the fields and based our operations in the woods and mountains. We were fighting much more smoothly than we have been. I guess we got the hang of it. We were also doing well when it came to herbs. It didn't take long to fill our bags with loot and herbs. And that's when it happened. We'd been fighting monsters that resembled, for the most part, inanimate object, but finally, an animal-like monster appeared. It was like a giant brown rabbit. Usapple. A sapple? Weird name, if you ask me. Boo! Boo! The Zapple looked us over for a second or two before rushing at us with its huge front teeth bared. Watch out! Probably thinking it looked weak, Reptalia was already locked on, so I ran in front of her to cover. Clink, clink. Nupsel dug its teeth in, but just as before, it didn't hurt at all. Apparently, my defense rating was really high. Got it. Stab it. What is it? It's alive, and it'll bleed. I really never have to tell you to grow up for this. I tried to figure out what she wanted to say. Just deal with it. We're going to have to fight lots of living things. But... Usapple, the Upsapple, Usapple, kept biting me over and over. Just do it. If you don't, I won't be able to watch out for you. Sure, we spent time together and grown a little attached, but I still needed her to fight for me. If she couldn't do it, I'd have to return her and get a new slave, one that could fight. Hiya! Hiya! Reptalia let out a childlike scream and stabbed the Usapple, time after time, in the back. When she pulled out the knife, blood sprayed. The Usapple collapsed to the ground and rolled back and forth. Reptalia watched it there and then kept looking at the blood on her knife. The color left her face. She looked like she was going to run off. Like she was going to run off. But there was no time for sympathy. We'd have to do just the same thing 100 times, if not thousands of times. Boo! Another Usapple appeared from the shrubbery and bounced towards Reptalia with his teeth out. I dashed between them and deflected the Usapple attack. I'm sorry. I know it's my responsibility, but I can't do anything but protect others. That's why you have to do it. The Usapple buried its fangs into my arm as I spoke. I have to get stronger. I need you to help me. If I didn't, there was no way I could survive what was coming. The time was set. The wave of great destruction would be coming in just a little over a week. If I had to face it at my current level, I wasn't sure if I could survive. But in just over a week, a wave of great destruction will wash over the world. What? That's why I have to get stronger before the wave comes, and I have to be strong enough to meet it. Reptalia listened in silence, but was shaking in fear. You're going to fight the wave? Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm not doing it for fun. If you think about it that way, you and I are very much alike. I'm not in the position to speak since I am forcing you and all. ... So don't give me reason to let you go. I didn't want to. I wouldn't be good for anyone to put her back It wouldn't be good for anyone to put her back in the cage in that tent. I had no money. If I didn't sell her off, I couldn't buy a new slave. I understand, Master. I will fight. Color slowly came back to her pale face. She nodded. Then she turned to the apple and stabbed it with her bloodied knife. She looks suddenly determined. Her eyes were fixed. The apple was rolling over at her feet. She looked at it and then slowly closed her eyes. She stepped forward and corrected her grip on her knife. She was going to decease it. Leave that to me. This isn't your responsibility. Okay. I took a deceasing knife from my bag and went to work. This was reality, not a game. If I could have looked away, I would have, but that wasn't an option. It was my first time butchering an animal, but it was something I'd have to do to survive. When I first saw the apple's blood on my hands, I understood how Raftalia felt. Also, apparently I couldn't use weapons in combat, but I could use them to carry out tasks like this. Granted, there were lots of times in life when you needed a knife, so it only seemed natural. I butchered the two apples and let the shield absorb them. Usapple? Usa leather shield conditions met. You should meet shield conditions met. Usa leather shield. Abilities locked. Equip bonus. Agility 3. Usa meat shield. Abilities locked. Equip bonus. Dissection. Skill 1. I turned my shield into the Usa meat shield and stood up. Master, please, don't abandon me. Avtaya was looking at me, pleading with me. She looked hurt. She must have really not wanted to go back to the slave trader. She cried in the night, had a disease, and was skinny as twigs. If I weren't careful, she'd end up dead, and that wouldn't be good for anyone. I momentarily smiled at the thought of her dying, and imagined that it was that woman. But back to reality. This wasn't an ideal scenario. If you do your job, I won't abandon you. And I'd be in a really tight spot as she died. Yes, anything with that same gender as that woman. Her. My head was spinning. I had to stop thinking about it. It was painful. It was time to think of how to use this slave to get stronger. EXP 7. Raftalia EXP 7. I want to help you, Master. Raftalia was behaving like a new person, attacking and killing apples left and right. Once she even dashed off to attack one before I had a chance to secure it and hold it down. This was good, even if it seemed a little violent. What I was doing wasn't a good thing. Everything was just for me. It was all self-centered. But hey, I didn't really have a choice, did I? We decided to stay in the woods that night. We found a clearing, stacked some firewood, and built a fire. We picked some herbs that seemed to be edible and boiled them with the apple meat for dinner. There was some meat left over, so we skewered it and grilled it by the fire. I was planning on going back to town by evening tomorrow, but I wasn't sure if I could sell the meat. I wasn't even sure if we could eat it, but my appraisal skill was saying that it was edible. Once the cooking was done, I took a nibble to test it. There was nothing wrong with it. It was rubbery though, and I couldn't taste it. Was it gross? I hadn't done anything but cook it, so it was probably pretty flavorless. My cooking skill lit up and told me that the quality increased from average to pretty good, so it couldn't have been all that bad. Here, eat up. I passed her the pot of stew and a skewer of meat. It's so yummy! Her stomach had been rumbling in anticipation, and her eyes lit up when she bit into the food. She ate it as though it was the most delicious thing in the world. After the day's fighting, I was at level 10, and so was Raptalia. She had finally caught up with me. I turned my attention to compounding work by the light of the fire. With the money I had made from the medicines, hopefully I'd be able to afford us some better equipment. I made the most expensive medicines I knew of. I ground up herbs with the mortar and pestle and wrung their juices into a beaker. Medicine successfully created. Nutritional supplement successfully created. I'd made all the recipes I knew, so I reached the end of the usefulness of a simple compounding recipes one. Besides, these two recipes were what I stumbled upon by luck, and relying on luck was only going to get me so far. Most of my resources were not very good. She coughed, so the medicine was wearing off. I passed her another bottle in silence, and she drank it in silence. Excuse me. Anyway, we both have to be stronger. We're going to take turns watching the fire. You can sleep first, and I'll wake you up when it's your turn. All right. She was so agreeable and honest. She was acting like a completely different person from when we first met. Good night. Or, good night. Ah, yeah, night. Oh, hey, we're going to sell it off tomorrow, so you might as well sleep on the fur blanket while we have it. While cooking, I'd use the fire to smoke out the bed bugs and lice from the blanket. So I passed it to Raptalia. It wasn't that thick, but in combination with the rest, it should be pretty warm. Okay. She sniffled at the fur and made a face. The smoke? The smoke? Yes, it's very smoky. Yeah, I bet. But it seems warm. She lay down and leaned against my back. Then she closed her eyes. I kept on practicing compounding and tended to the fire, waiting for Raptalia's inevitable outburst. Geez, just how long would we have to live like this? At the very least, we need to live like this for one more week. I didn't want to think about it, but if we didn't get better equipment, we might just end up dead. It would happen pretty soon, but the third day I was getting a good handle on the timing. Raptalia slowly raised herself up and rubbed her eyes. You awake? She didn't cry. Oh, that's it. Her back was touching mine when she slept, so the warmth must have made her feel better. If she could sleep and touch another person, maybe she'll be alright. I'm hungry. She was still hungry after eating all that? Here you go. I gave her the rest of the grilled meat, though I'd been saving it for breakfast. She ate it up and seemed to enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to try to get some sleep. Wake me up if anything happens. Okay. She nodded as she chomped on the meat. I'm glad that she was happier than she used to be. But she was turning into a little piggy.